violent crime and home invasion cases on the rise in Canada, millions of Canadians are asking, what can I do to protect my home and, more importantly, my family?
This is a conversation that gets brought up all too frequently, and I'm asked almost daily by viewers and friends, what is the best gun for home defense? Now, I want to start this by prefacing that I do not advocate for shooting anybody, pointing firearms at anybody. This is Canada. It's a little bit of a gray area when it comes to home defense and self-defense. But again, I don't advocate for shooting anybody. I don't advise that you do. But at the same time, I don't advise you become slaughtered in your home. So for all intents and purposes, this is just let's call it a recreational conversation about home defense and what I deem to be the best home defense firearm. And the first thing I'll say is it really doesn't matter what firearm you like or what firearm is the best for home defense. Now, I would say if you live in a particular country or state that allows you to have, let's say, a pistol, beside your bed, I would say that's probably your best bet. Go for something that's small, manageable, accurate, and has a decent shell capacity that is right beside your bed versus your AR that's maybe down the hallway or in a gun cabinet in another room. So, pistol by the bed, I think is just the obvious best thing to defend yourself with. But now here in Canada, we have very strict gun storage laws. Ammunition essentially can't be stored with firearms, blah, blah, blah. You can't leave, loaded magazines. You can't leave a loaded firearm. And in here in Canada, you also cannot go buy a firearm with its sole purpose being used for home defense. But again, all entirely hypothetical, and it's just my opinion as to what firearm I believe is the best for home defense. And I think a lot of people are not going to like my choice and have a lot of opinions, and I'm okay to hear it. So put them in the comments if you agree with me or you don't. I'm cool to hear it. I'm all ears. But I will say this. Regardless of what firearm you choose to protect yourself and your family and your home with, I think more important than the type of firearm is how experienced you are with that firearm. Are you proficient with it? Are you comfortable? Do you shoot often? Do you train often with that firearm? You could have a fully jammed AR and have minimal experience and range time with that firearm and have, your grandfather's, hunting rifle that you're way more proficient with. I would say you're probably more effective with that rifle than you would be with that AR. But again, this is just my opinion, and this is the firearm that I train with very frequently. I know the firearm like the back of my hand. I think it's extremely manageable, and I'm very confident in my ability to manipulate this firearm and defend myself with it if need be. Are you ready? Are you ready to see what my firearm choice would be for home defense? Well, it's going to be my little TAC 14 chambered and 20 gauge. Now, I get it. Round capacity, not great. However, diversity, A plus. I mean, you can put non-lethal rounds into this firearm. You can shoot buckshot, birdshot, slugs, or a variety of all of them. Now, again, I can't reiterate this enough. I do not advocate for you shooting anybody, pointing a firearm at anybody. I'm not a lawyer. Do not take legal advice from me by any means. Again, let's just call this a hypothetical, recreational conversation that I'm having with you and giving you my opinion as to what firearm I believe the best for home defense and the reasons why. Now, this little 20 gauge, although it lacks shell capacity, undeniably, it doesn't lack stopping capability. So you could run buckshot in this thing and be extremely effective in a home defense scenario. You can also have your side caddy, which mine's currently not there for storage purposes. But again, you could theoretically have a shell caddy here with shells in it again. But now we're talking about, potentially breaking some Canadian law in regards to gun storage. But again, this is all entirely hypothetical. So let's assume we're allowed to have firearms in Canada for the reason of self-defense and we don't have such strict storage laws. So let's just hypothetically say that I'm allowed to have this firearm stowed away in my room, even a trigger lock on it, sure. And let's say rounds in your tube or rounds in a side saddle or a side caddy. Let's pretend. And if that was the case, I would keep probably 2 rounds, I think, in my mag tube. I wouldn't want to keep it fully jammed. I don't want to, weaken the spring of my my mag by any means. Because again, if you leave a shotgun stored, fully jammed with shells over time, that spring is going to lose some of its retention and it's not going to be as effective. And you'll probably have to replace it at some point. So in any event, I shoot this firearm often enough. Even if that was the case and I did store ammunition in my tube, it would be cycled out fast enough where I don't think it would cause any damage to my spring. But again, here we have a very small firearm that packs a really big punch and you have a lot of diversity, again, with ammunition. So I could theoretically, let's say, stuff, maybe a slug in, maybe a couple of buckshot rounds, and maybe a less lethal or a non-lethal in there as well. That way, if this firearm is stored, we call it breacher safe, which is, again, safety off, nothing in the chamber, and ammunition stored in the tube, but the receiver closed. So theoretically, all I would have to do is get to my firearm, rack a load in, which in that configuration, this would be a less lethal in there automatically, with 2 buckshots to follow if need be. And then, if that zombie just doesn't quit, I have a slug in there as well. So again, I could shoot a non-lethal, whack it, now I got a buckshot. So if that non-lethal didn't do the trick and deter, the home invader or what have you, well, next thing coming down is a buckshot, which is nobody's ever been shot with a buckshot and like continued to be an attacker. Like the stopping power in shotguns, which is again why they're my favorite firearm. It's essentially a small cannon at your fingertips, which I really love it. And again, this thing is so light and easy to manipulate. So I do have a laser on mine. It's sighted in pretty good for like 15 yards at max. I wouldn't shoot anything further than that. But again, with my home, in theory, I probably have 5 yards, which would be my, my defensive position, looking down my hallway with a clear view of any potential invaders that want to come do harm to myself or my family. So yeah, laser on. I'm in a dark corner. I see them before they see me, and it's not a great place to be for any home invader, that's for sure. So again, for me, it's not so much about being, having the best quote unquote firearm for home defense. It's about being as proficient with the firearm that you can be. And again, I shoot this so often. I know this thing like the back of my hand. I have all my touch points just from feel. I could theoretically load this firearm and shoot it with my eyes closed. Now I know some of you are saying, well, that's just not enough shells. It's not enough round capacity to effectively be able to defend yourself, which I would argue, I don't think there's at least any case that I'm aware of in a home invasion scenario where a homeowner armed with a shotgun had to shoot more than 3 shells. And in the event that you did need some more shells, again, if you're proficient and you've trained with that firearm, I could just as well, burn through my first 3 rounds hypothetically. And if need be, I could easily top load into this receiver without even looking. And I already have, another round ready to go. And if I do have time in between a potential threat or engagement, at that point, I got one in my chamber again, ready to go. And now I can start peeling from my side caddy and loading that bottom tube and get back up to maximum capacity within seconds. So this would be my number one choice for home defense. Because again, we're not defending property. We don't have, let's say, 100 acres at range, 100-yard range where a threat could be coming in and we're essentially confronting them with a rifle. I'm talking about in your home, door kicked in the middle of the night. So it's all CQB, it's all close quarter, defensive tactics that you would need. And this is, in my opinion, the best close quarter home defense firearm. It's reliable, they don't jam, and being 20 gauge, it's really manageable. The recoil's very small, like you can easily keep it on target even after shooting. You don't get much muzzle lift at all, especially like I said, if you know how to use that firearm and you train with it. I don't get much muzzle lift at all when I'm shooting, so I stay on target pretty efficiently. And I just love this firearm. But I also hate talking about self defense, and I hate that it's such a relevant topic right now here in Canada. With the Liberal Party trying to essentially strip firearms from the legal, law-abiding citizens. But yet, home invasion and violent crime are on the rise. It's just kind of unsettling. But again, this piece is just for entertainment, and it's just sharing my opinion as to hypothetical, what firearm I deem to be the best for home defense here in Canada. And this is it. Little nightstick. Just an overall fantastic firearm, reliable, easy to manage. But again, it truly doesn't matter which firearm you have to protect yourself with. What matters more is how proficient and how trained are you with that firearm. And that's my piece. I hope you don't ever have to live through a home invasion. That would be extremely traumatizing. I hope you never find yourself in a position where you do have to point and shoot your firearm at another human being. That's awful. But again, at the same time, I will say, like, I don't advocate you shooting people, and I never will. But I also don't advocate you, being slaughtered in your home or watching your family be assaulted or worse in your own home. Now, I want to know your hypothetical best firearm for home defense that you own. What would the go-to be for you? And what firearm do you practice with the most? If you enjoyed this video, I'd certainly appreciate you watching. Maybe consider hitting the thumbs up button, consider subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next one.